love to welcome everyone to the Legally Blissed podcast, and I would love to welcome Ms. Jeralyn Lawrence. Jeralyn represents clients with matrimonial and family law needs, including divorce litigation, mediation and arbitration, custody and parenting time issues, alimony and child support, separation and property settlement agreements, adoption and guardianship advice, domestic partnership matters under the Domestic Partnership Act, domestic violence and sexual abuse, and alimony. She handles matters ranging from the simple and straightforward to the complex and complicated, having involved significant income and assets, including representations of celebrities, professional athletes, and high-profile individuals. She takes great pride and care in helping her clients through difficult personal matters. Welcome again, Jeralyn. Thank you so much for being here with me. Your bio is unbelievable. Like I could spend a lot of time going deep into your biology. Let's not do that. Into your bio. You're also the founder of your own law practice, Lawrence Law, Divorce, and Family Lawyers. It's clear to me that you really have a passion for what you do. And I would love to know what has inspired you or who has inspired you to keep pushing through all of these years.
Well, thank you, Susie. Thank you for having me. I think it's important for anybody in any job, whatever it is that they're doing, to make sure that they're passionate about it, because you spend so much time at work. And if you're not passionate about it, it shows. You really cannot fake passion. So I am passionate about what I do. And I think where that really came from is my father is a retired juvenile detective. So I grew up with the police officer as a father, always talking the law with him as a child. I thought for sure I would be a prosecutor. That was what my goals were. So I interned at at a county prosecutor's office. I interned at the United States Attorney's Office. So I thought that's what I would do. And then I end up in the family law world. I also had watched a movie, The Burning Bed, with Farrah Fawcett. I don't know if you've ever heard of that movie, but Farrah Fawcett was in a movie, and she was a victim of domestic violence and regularly beaten and tortured by her husband, and she ended up killing him, burning him as he slept. And when I saw that movie, I had no idea that domestic violence was such an issue in our country. And so I thought that that's really what I was going to do. I was going to prosecute perpetrators of domestic violence. And then in law school, I ended up in the family law clinic, and now I'm a family lawyer. So I still am dealing with domestic violence issues, but also as they relate to divorces and family law related issues.
When did you, how old were you when you first saw that movie?
I want to say it was probably college years, but I knew I had wanted to be a lawyer since at least sixth grade. I remember standing outside. I remember being outside my middle school library and had just completed like a career questionnaire as to what I wanted to be. And I knew I wanted to be a lawyer. And I have three kids. I tell them that they're already signed up for law school. I said, I've signed you up for basketball, football, and law school. It's just a great degree to have. So I hope that they all follow me in my footsteps. They don't have to do necessarily what I do. If they want to, that's great. But I think it's a great degree. So I've known for a long time. And again, I think it's because of always talking to my dad about his day and what his life looked like, and analyzing, everyday situations that he had to face. And I loved the application of the law to it.
Wow. There's a lot of successes that you have in your bio. You were named the finalist as Lawyer of the Year in 2015, 2019 New Jersey Legal Trailblazer, 2020 Mentor of the Year. You've been one of the New Jersey Super Lawyers. I mean, I can go on and on. What are you most proud of in all of these accomplishments that you've had over your career, and why?
I think there's a couple. I think what really makes me proud is how my kids view me. And when I opened
Mm,
up my own law firm, I had been in a larger firm for about over 20 years. And when we decided to open up Lawrence Law, they're very proud. So that's very rewarding. I think the relationships that I've built with other lawyers,
mhm,
that is, my colleagues, some of them have turned into my best friends.
mm,
So that's been wonderful. Um, from a case standpoint, there's nothing more fulfilling than having a client in on an initial consultation and they can barely get through it. They're weeping, just tears running down their face, tissues everywhere, and they're broken. And then by the end of the case, um, they've they're excited about their new journey. They're excited about that next path that they're going to
wow.
take. And so that is really rewarding, to take this
Yeah.
broken person and let them understand their power and the blessings that that marriage had, and to embrace those so that you don't become angry and bitter.
Mm,
But know that this person or this relationship happened for a reason, whatever that is. Let's find that silver lining. And oftentimes it's the kids, but for this relationship, you
yeah,
wouldn't have, these
right.
precious kids that you have. So focus on that. Don't focus on, oh, I wish I never met that person, because then you wouldn't have those great gifts. And I can see people that come out of the divorce process when they're angry and bitter. It just closes them off to being happy.
Mm,
But if I can help them, shepherd them through to a different stage in their life, and that's what I ask them, right, in our initial consultation, where do you want to be in a year? It's the
mm,
most important thing. Where do you want to be? And let's strategize and try to help you get there. And if they can stay focused on that and not focused on the past, so that always gives me a great sense of pride each and every time. And I still get holiday cards from clients 10 years later, 15 years later. Hey, this is what my life looks like. I mean, that brings me a lot of joy. I'm going to be president of the New Jersey State Bar Association in a couple weeks. I'm currently the president of the New Jersey chapter of the American Academy of Matrimonial Lawyers. And the greatest gift that those organizations allow me to do is identify problematic areas in the practice of law and have the power to try to advocate for change. I don't
okay.
like I don't like when people just complain about things. Let's complain about things, but let's offer a solution. And in those leadership roles, you can try to effectuate change. And that's pretty exciting. So I know I've said a couple things, but that's really, I think, what would make me the most proud.
Okay, that's amazing, and I'm super proud of you. And I just want to say congratulations
Thank you.
on your upcoming position. That's amazing. One of the questions I have here that I did want to ask you is, what is the problem you want to solve? Like, you are now in that position, right? Or you are going to be moving into it, and you've already had leadership roles. But what is the problem that you want to solve?
My my main goal, my main theme for my presidency is going to be putting lawyers first. That's our goal.
Okay.
And I struggled with even that title because oftentimes you say putting lawyers first and people have a visceral reaction to that.
Yeah.
They think negatively of lawyers, or they're like, you're always first. But the truth is we're not. We put our clients first, we put the courts first, we put our families first, we put our colleagues first, we put everybody but lawyers first. And my opening line, or close to my opening line in my installation speech, is going to quote Desmond Tutu. And what he said was, we need to stop going into the river to pull people out. We need to look upstream and find out why they're falling in.
Mm,
And I'd like to look upstream and find out why lawyers are falling in. We have now so many wellness initiatives. We have a lawyer assistance program for lawyers who are struggling with addiction issues and mental illness. And all of those are wonderful programs, and we need them, and we need more of them. But those treat the symptom
Yeah.
of why people are falling in. I want to know why they're falling in. I have some thoughts as to why they're falling in. I think lawyers are governed by an ethics committee, and the ethics committee was designed to protect the public. I think there's been a shift in the approach of our ethics committees to not just only protecting the public, but also to punish the lawyer, which I think is far afield. There are cases that now say lawyers have to stay into a case and handle cases for free, even if they're being abused by a client or not, the client is not taking their advice. So that's pretty stressful from an attorney's point of view. One of our largest sources of referrals is online. And you will have clients will leave a negative review about some of my colleagues, and you can't do anything about it. You're pretty much handcuffed as to what you can respond. I don't think that's fair. And I think, that adds to the stress. So I really want to look at what is harming lawyers, what is causing them so much stress, and how can we fix it?
I love that. This is just right at my alley, because this is something that is really, really near and dear to my heart, is the mental health issues of lawyers in general, but especially women. I think that we do take on a lot. We're the ones that have the children clean and, they've had their dinner, and we sacrifice ballet recitals, for our career. And I don't see men doing that as much now. I mean, with that said, men definitely struggle with mental health issues as well. So I don't want to, detract from that at all. But I think you make a really great point at how can we identify the source of this problem or the sources of this problem? As a young lawyer, I was constantly afraid of malpractice, screwing something up it was grounded into me, the repercussions of making a mistake. Right. So fortunately I had, a few great mentors. I had a couple attorneys I worked for that weren't so great, and I wouldn't necessarily consider them mentors. So I think a lot of this too is what are we and how are we grooming? Is that the proper? Is that the proper word? How are we mentoring, the young lawyers that are coming up in their own practices?
Well, I mean, that's true. And what we say in my office is, you're going to make a mistake. We are making there's oftentimes I say we should change how we bill. We should not bill by the hour. We should bill by decision. We are making so many important decisions, and sometimes with not as much information as we would want, but we're relying on what our client is telling us. I feel like I make a mistake a day. I'm sure that I do. And I'm learning and growing every day. And what I try to say to everybody on my team is, let's talk about it. If you feel like you made a mistake, we can fix it. It's when you feel like you made a mistake and you can't talk about it or own up to it, that's where it just kind of takes on a life of its own. And that's where you can find a problem. But I don't think anyone's intentionally making a mistake. You're doing the best that you can with the information that you have. And if it ends up that it didn't go the way that you planned, well, let's tackle it and let's address it. Let's fix where it went south. So I think always trying to stress open lines of communication is key. And I think you do need that mentorship. You do need somebody that you can be your authentic self and say, look, I was just asked this question. I have no idea. I don't know where to start. What would you do? and without being judged, without feel like you're going to, be labeled something. But I think women do that. I think women are such really good collaborators.
Mhm.
I think we're so much more mindful of reaching back and pulling up. Um, and I mean, I hope so. I hope that we're doing a better job at that. I think we talk a lot about doing that. So I think it's on top of mind for women to do that. I also think this younger generation, I'm going to sound old, is different. I don't think they tolerate what we have to tolerate. I really don't. I mean, I didn't have to live this, but I hear stories of people before me. Women were not allowed to wear pants to court.
Right.
That's all I wear are pants. No one ever, you know what I mean? So I don't, they weren't, to me, it's a silly example, but I don't miss anything for my kids. And I've been told stories of women had to miss things for their kids. I don't think your generation is going to miss anything. I think they're just to be like, I'm going to see my kids or whatever, whatever it is and unapologetically. And I think that that's a wonderful shift.
I
And I
agree.
think the pandemic has the silver lining also in this pandemic, and remote work has been such a blessing just to be able to be on Zoom with you to do this.
Amen.
Right?
Yeah, for
Right.
sure.
Yeah. I didn't have to leave my office. You're not leaving your space. And, you could be home and do this. You can have your kids working nearby if need be. It's just changed the practice for the better. I know it's reduced my stress. I've been home more now in the past 2 years than I've ever been.
Mm.
So it's my work-life balance has markedly improved with the advent of Microsoft Teams and Zoom and that becoming commonplace. I don't
Yeah.
know if you're seeing that in your life, but I'm absolutely seeing that.
Do you feel like the pandemic gave you an opportunity to sort of reflect on your practice and where you wanted your team and your business to go going forward?
It definitely did. I mean, particularly in those early days, those terrifying days, where you had no idea what was going to happen and you worried about going out of business, and what's going to happen with clients. I think it made you, refocus on what was important. It also taught us a different way of how to practice. One of my colleagues lives down in South Jersey. She's been to the office, it's not even 3 times since the pandemic. And she's doing a great job working from home. She's much more efficient. She's less stressed because she's lost that entire commute, and she's
Yeah.
just as productive.
Yeah.
So I think it did. I think it gave everybody that opportunity to take a look and do some soul searching as to what's important, and opened up our eyes to a different way to practice.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess every now and then, we do have to look at the silver lining to things like this.
Yeah,
You
I
have
think
to.
so. And I think you have to ask yourself, what is worth going back to? What is worth it? What's worth getting in the car and driving an hour and a half to sit in a meeting that could have been an email to drive an hour and a half back, right? And so I think people are going to continue to do that. The stressful thing, I think, for lawyers when they're weighing getting back into court, I mean, it's going to be dreadful because you sit in court all day. Your emails are just stacking up, stacking up, stacking up. So now you're in court all day. You come home at 5 o'clock. You have a whole nother day ahead of you of managing emails, right?
Right.
Versus Zoom or telephone or whatever you're doing through your office. When I'm done having the pleasure of talking to you, I'm going to be able to go check a couple emails, stay on top of my day. So by the time my day ends, my day ends. No, I'm still going to pack work up from home, whether it's writing a blog or whatever I need to do and work from home, but I'm working from home and my work day is essentially done. Very different when we go back into the courtroom and you're sitting next to a client 8 hours a day waiting for the judge to take your case. I don't look forward to that. And So, and I think our courts are receptive to staying as much on the virtual platforms as possible. I think
think so.
trials will go back, but so I think this pandemic brought about real significant, impactful change.
Yeah, in some really good ways.
Yeah.
When you become president of the Bar Association in New Jersey, will you be able to have a voice in how courts are managed there at all, in terms of like being able to do more remote type work?
I think so. And I think we've already had our voice. The court has been wonderful. They've been having multiple, what they call listening sessions. And they will listen to many lawyers talk about the pluses and minuses of remote, pluses and minuses of going back to court. When the pandemic first hit, the state bar started a pandemic task force, a practice of law task force.
Wow.
And we met with multiple sections, put together reports to send to the court as to that very issue. And since we've issued that report, the court has had, like I said, those various listening sessions. So absolutely, it is most definitely a collaborative effort. And the court does listen to the Bar Association, listens to individual attorneys, and wants that feedback.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So
So
it is important. It's important to have a seat at the table.
yeah.
And that's what you hope for.
Yeah, it's important to have a seat at the table. And when you do, it's important to express your concern and your voice your concern, or, you have to speak up if you want any type of change. So
And from the client perspective, and this is what we've kind of hit home with the court as well. I've done so many consultations on somebody's lunch hour, where they didn't have to lose a day of work. In the old days, pre-pandemic, people were taking off at least a half a day of work, drive here, sit with me for an hour, drive back. They don't have to do that. They're not hiring babysitters anymore to be able to meet with lawyers. And I think the court has said, appearances in court are up because it's so much easier for them to dial up on Zoom. I'm telling you, from the Bar Association perspective, participations in our sections and committees, attendance at things is up. Do I think people are still yearning for certain in-person events? They are. Do I think we need to find that balance? We do. There is nothing like an in-person event to help you build relationships. That's what this practice is about. You have to build relationships, and you do need in-person opportunities to do that. But I think we're seeing that needs to be more built around an event. Some kind of, whether it's a meeting where you're going to a location, like we're going to Key West in November for our mid-year meeting. We're going to Atlantic City next month for the installation. We're going to the Borgata. I think a lot of people are going to show up for those things. But do they need to drive to somewhere to have a meeting where you can just pop on Zoom? I don't think so.
Right. I agree.
So it's finding that balance. It's finding that equilibrium.
Yeah, it's definitely finding the balance. I definitely have noticed, I'm a pretty introverted person, but I have noticed that I am craving some, a little bit more like in-person networking, right? Like, I think that being in the same room with people and having some type of like commonality for being in that room is important. But when you're talking about just like, there's no reason that you and I should have to like travel and be in the same room together to do something like this, to just have this conversation. So thank God for the beauty of technology, right? I mean, I guess it could kind of be a love-hate relationship, but here we are. So
it's true. But with everything, it's an opportunity to learn and grow. We'll find the balance. If meetings and things like that, more routine, stay on Zoom, great. But networking, I mean, if you're even at a meeting, it's very limited opportunity to network because you're sitting in a meeting, listening to people, right?
Sure.
But if you can go somewhere for 2 hours, grab a drink and talk and meet people, I think people are absolutely craving to do that.
Right. So I'm curious, I want to go back just a little bit, just a couple years. Um,
Sure.
when you were a young lawyer, fresh out of law school, did you work for a law firm? Did you have a mentor who that you attribute some of your success to?
So I graduated law school. I did a clerkship, and then I went to a large firm in Somerset County, the largest firm in my home county. And I was there for 20 something years. And
Okay.
I went to work for one woman who's wonderful. But as soon as I got, well, not as soon, I was there a handful of months, and she decided her boyfriend moved to Chicago. So she followed him to Chicago. So I was pretty much left on my own. I remember crying. I'm like,
Oh,
what am I going to
yeah,
do?
yeah.
So I did have her from afar, and certainly for a short period of time before she moved. Um, so I can't say that. So yeah, so I had her as a mentor, and then I met other colleagues along the way that were wonderful mentors. Um, so I was more being mentored by my adversaries or my colleagues opposite me
Oh,
in a case.
yeah,
So I
yeah.
was learning and growing, making mistakes and figuring things out. And but I read a lot. I read everything. I read every case that came down. I read because I really thought that's how you become a great lawyer is
Right.
what niche do you want to do and then be the best at it.
Then be the
So I wanted to do that. I wanted to teach about it. I wanted to speak about it. And that's why I say to, some of my team now, like they have the beauty of they can see how I practice, and they may like a couple things that I do. They may say, "Oh, I want to do that," or they may say, "I don't like how she does that."
Mm,
And don't do that. But then they have the opportunity, we have 8 lawyers here now, to look at someone else, how they do it, and take the good and bad and mold it into what makes you comfortable.
mm.
So so I had a little bit of a different journey. I also had at my old firm, one of the named partners was an extremely gifted and top matrimonial attorney. So I always had him also to bounce ideas off of. But I was always he was much older than me, and I was always very intimidated by just how
Sure.
smart he was. So it wasn't until I was more comfortable in my own skin to have him mentor me, just because I was always a little intimidated to
Yeah. Yeah.
ask him things. So
That's I think you're like a really great example just of someone who can just admit that like I was a young lawyer and I was intimidated by this partner, right? Like but here you are, like you've really like grown into yourself. Like as an individual and as a professional, and you've started your own practice and you're so successful. What was the impetus that for you to start your current law firm?
so I was I was the head of my department, head of the family law department there, and I was on the management committee and on the compensation committee, and I was the top biller in the firm and brought in the most money.
You saw that
But
money going
I
through,
saw
you're
all
like,
that, and
hmm,
I still, yeah, I still did not feel taken seriously when I made suggestions. I
interesting.
still felt
Yeah.
overlooked.
Yeah.
And there was one particular management committee meeting that I really felt overlooked. And I had it. I literally put my
Mhm.
pen down and I said, there's just got to be a better way. And I had always thought of going on my own. It was always a dream of mine. And I actually looked probably 15 years earlier, and I was starting to do the to-do sheet of the to-do list of what you had to do. And I got down to the postage machine that I needed to buy my own postage machine. And that totally overwhelmed me. I was like, I can't be
This has
responsible
gone
for
too far.
this guy. I just folded up the list. I said, you know what? I have a mail room here. I don't need to worry
Right.
about. I just said I can't
Yeah.
deal with
Yeah.
it. But then it got to the point where I just needed to deal with that. And I talked to my team here and I said, this is really what I want to do. And they said, we're in. And every single member of my team came with me.
That's amazing.
It was. And, it's different now.
Mhm.
If I want to do a commercial on TV, I do a commercial.
You
If
don't
I
have to
want to
go
do,
through 5 layers of
no,
partners to get something
I,
done.
I don't have to go through
Yeah.
anyway. I can lay in bed at night and say, hey, I think I want a jingle. Okay, I don't have to,
Good
and
jingle.
it could be the dumbest idea and maybe it doesn't work, but it doesn't matter because
Yeah.
it's my idea. And if it works, great. And if it doesn't work, okay.
It's okay.
Yeah, it's perfectly fine.
You tried it.
And yeah, and you just have the flexibility, nothing is done. There's no decision by committee. And
Mm.
sometimes that's a little daunting. Sometimes I prefer that, but I don't have that. So that was really the impetus of it, was feeling overlooked, wanting to make sure that me and the team's financial security was protected and secure. And now we're a boutique, we're a much smaller firm, but this is all that we do. This is all that we specialize in. And everybody's rowing the boat the same way, which is
Mhm.
good.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So, okay, in addition, I know that you have a lot on your plate already. And you have this amazing position coming up. I'm curious, like, what is next for you in terms of like the vision for your law firm?
Vision for my law firm is really to just continue what we're doing, just try to be the best at what we can, make sure everybody is happy professionally and personally. I don't envision getting much bigger.
Yeah,
We did
yeah.
just buy a building. So we are starting renovating a building. We're going to have
Oh,
our
awesome.
own building in Watchung, two
Very
doors
cool.
down from where. So that's exciting.
Yeah, very
Uh,
excited.
Being a tenant is not very fun.
Sure.
You know, so that'll be an exciting part of the journey. But surrounded by really great people, I don't envision us getting much bigger than we are.
Hmm.
Just try to make sure everybody's happy and healthy and enjoying what they do. Once I'm done with my bar presidency, I'll probably just take a break for a day or two.
A day or
And
two.
a day or two. And then I've actually been toying with the idea of getting involved in politics.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm so
Yeah.
excited to follow your journey. I
So
really
thank
am.
you. So we'll see. I don't know. It's either going to be more, focus on retire and get to the beach earlier,
Sure, sure.
or, try to effectuate change, and I just think we need more women
We
in
do.
leadership and
We do.
in government. And particularly, I'm very moved by what's going on in Ukraine. And
Mm.
I just, it's just depressing every day. And I just feel like if there were more women, I mean, I think Ukraine is wonderful. I just, and I admire that leadership, and he's been
Mhm.
doing a great job. I just wonder if there were more women leaders in the world, country and state, where we
What
would
would it be
be.
like? Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw a picture, I guess it was yesterday, of I want to say it was the Finnish and Swedish, maybe prime ministers.
Presidents were with him. We're with Zelensky.
Yeah. Which I thought was really like kind of interesting. But I feel like women in these leadership roles, like we have to get there. Like we have to get there. Women just, I feel like we take a very empathetic approach to how we deal with really complex situations. Like when you were talking earlier in our conversation about like sitting down with your client and like asking them what they wanted a year from now, like I could tell at that time, like you are genuinely empathetic with your clients, right? It's not just about strategy and winning in court and one-upping opposing counsel and the gamesmanship. It's really just digging into, what can we do to make this person's life better in a year? And I mean, I really felt that from you. I felt that energy from you.
Well, thank you. I mean, that's to me what matters. And that's why I say to my clients, there's really no winners or losers in
Right.
what I do. And I tell them that. I say in the initial consult, I said, I'm not a criminal lawyer where there's a winner or a loser. You're either going
Right.
to jail or you're not. I'm not a civil lawyer where you're either winning money or you're not. I'm a family lawyer, and we're going to win issues and we're going to lose issues
Mm,
all at the same time because it's a compromise and you
mhm,
need to give up things to get things.
mhm,
And we
mhm,
can't think about it as winning or losing because
mhm.
that'll drive you crazy. Like
Right.
I have people come and, like, I'm hiring you because I hear you win everything. You're a barracuda, you're a shark. I said, well, I could be, I could be on certain issues.
Yeah.
That's not ever where I want to start. My goal is to try to help you find peace and a compromise that you can live with.
Mm,
And I think, as long as you're managing their expectations and letting them know that, they appreciate that.
mhm. They have to feel a sense of comfort sitting down with you, though.
You hope so. I've been divorced, so
Yeah.
I know what that terror is like. I was
Right.
divorced
Right.
when my daughter was 8 weeks old.
Mm,
So I remember sitting on my bed crying so much my nose would bleed and being totally terrified whether my daughter was 8 weeks, as I said, what was going to happen with her. Was I going to have to turn her over for parenting time? So I know what that feels
yeah.
like. I know what heartbreak feels like. I know that that's a real thing, that I was in pain physically.
Physical pain.
Physical.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it took me a good year for my head to get out of the fog.
Mhm.
Um, but I also realized in hindsight that as I was hurting, I was healing too. And one day I would take 2 steps forward, then the next day I'd take 3 steps back, but then the next day I would take 10 steps forward, and then the next day 8 steps back. So I was starting to get ahead of the curve eventually, and to let them know that the same is true for them.
Mhm.
That's what you try to do.
Let me ask, I want to be respectful of your time. I just have a couple more questions. If I can have you for a couple minutes.
No, I appreciate it.
Okay.
This
Uh,
is I'm enjoying this. So thank you for taking your time out of your
no,
day to
I'm
do this.
loving this. Learning so much. I'm curious if you could look back at you on like right when you got out of law school, what piece of advice would you give like 25-year-old Jeralyn? I'm throwing out. I'm assuming you graduated at 25. It could have been 30. I'm not sure.
Mhm.
When you graduated from law school, what little piece of advice would you love to give her?
Enjoy the suits that you're wearing now because they're not going to fit 25 years from now. And
Wear them now.
when you thought you were fat then, so I would say, you looked really good back then. So,
Right?
and that, you know,
Rocket.
yep. I think my advice, um,
Well, that's perfect. That's
yeah,
perfect.
that would be part of it. It would be just be yourself. Still every day today, it's funny you use the word, I'm still intimidated today by people. You still have some sense of intimidation and insecurity, and every day going through, every motion I argue, could I have said this better? Should I
Yeah,
have
yeah.
done that better? And I'm going to do that to the day I die.
Mhm.
And I've just accepted that. And I think if I don't get that nervous stomach before emotion, that I'm complacent, and I don't think that's a good thing. So I've
Sure.
learned to channel that as adrenaline as getting me prepared. And I think what I would tell myself way back then is just go for it.
Mhm.
Don't let anything hold you back, even those voices in your head that makes you feel insecure or doubt yourself, or feel like you're not the smartest person in the room. And I know
Oh,
I'm not very many times, but I'm going to work hard. I'm going to do my best, and to you know, just go for it. Whatever I feel like doing, just do it without reservation. And guys do it. They don't care. They don't care. They just seize the day, whether they're qualified or not. When
that's
we sit here and we second guess ourselves every way up and down,
mhm.
but we
Sit at
shouldn't.
the table, wear the damn suit.
Wear the damn suit. And I think, we can have it all. Like,
Mhm.
I'm not one of those believers that think we can't have it all. I disagree when I hear women say that.
Mm.
Um, can we have it all at the same time? Maybe not. Do we have to surround ourselves with a really great village to be able to have it all? Absolutely.
Mhm.
Do you need to make sure there's no weak links in your village? Absolutely. But you can have it all. It's just, what is it that you want, and go for it.
Mm, I love that. Thank you so much.
No, you're
A
welcome.
final question is, do people call you J-Law?
They do. They do. They absolutely do. They call me J-Law. Sometimes people will call me Jennifer Lawrence. I said, look, if you're gonna call me Jennifer Lawrence, one, I gotta look like her, and two, I gotta make the money she makes. But no, they do call me J-Law. Actually, the current president of the Bar Association now call me J-Law. It's funny.
I
He
love it.
actually, I get to have a keynote speaker at the, we get to have a keynote speaker at the annual meeting. And some of my executive committee, that's what they were proposing. They're like, oh, get Jennifer Lopez, we'll call her J-Lo, J-Law brings J-Lo, like that. Anyway. So yeah, I get that now and then.
I love it. I love it. Well, I'm excited about your upcoming appointment, and it's
Thank
going to
you.
transition in May, right? Did you say that was in May?
May 19th.
May
Yes.
19th. Okay. And that's 2022. And
2022.
your new office building, is it going to be you're in Red Bank,
I'm
right?
in Watchung. We have offices in Red Bank and
Okay.
Watchung,
Okay.
but our main office is in Watchung,
Okay.
and our new office is 2 doors down.
It's going to be 2 doors
It's
down.
actually closer to my house because I live here too.
Oh,
So
good.
my 3-minute commute is now going to be 2 minutes and 50
2 minutes.
seconds.
I love it. I love it. And I will put your all of your social media information in the show notes with this. So
thank you so much. Well, thank you for taking time out of your day to do
no,
this. I
thank
really
you.
appreciate it.
Thank
It's nice
you.
to meet you and get to know you and spend time with you. So thank you.
It's same likewise. This has been a lot of fun, and best of luck on your upcoming appointment and potential political endeavors. Like with you, that you're gonna do whatever you want to do. You're gonna do what you want to do. You're gonna be successful.
We're gonna try. That's what we're gonna do. Do the best I can do.
Thank you for hanging out with me, J-Law.
Thanks, Susie.
Bye, my friend.